Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Consumer Confidential. I'm Vicki Nguyen. For the next half hour, we're helping to make your life a little easier, from social media hacks to save money to keeping your kitchen clean. But first, a focus on real estate. Despite rising interest rates, now may be a time to consider a fixer-upper. But before you say yes, here's what to consider to avoid ending up in a money pit.
I'm a millennial who's finally ready to buy a house, but feeling very discouraged about the current market situation.
Frustrated would-be homebuyers taken to social media.
The market is absolutely insane.
In total, I saw about 10 houses over the course of 2 weeks.
A combination of high interest rates and low inventory are leaving many would-be buyers on the outside looking in. Last year, home prices hit a record high, and the National Association of Realtors estimates the median home price will go up again this year to $386,000. But real estate experts say homebuyers may find more bang for their buck with a fixer-upper.
I'm starting to see house prices decrease, specifically in the houses that are fixer-upper.
Ethan Shin is a real estate agent in Florida.
In South Florida right now, we're seeing turnkey homes that are $1 million plus. And this house that we're standing in right now, Vicki, it's half the price of that.
I joined Shin and his client Joe Donovic as they looked at fixer-uppers near West Palm Beach, Florida. Joe's budget, $450,000, plus an extra $100,000 for repairs.
You ready to go take a look?
Certainly am.
First, this 3-bedroom home. Despite some cosmetic issues, older appliances, and interesting wallpaper, it's in pretty good shape, except for one big potential expense.
The windows, we get big hurricanes in Florida, so replacing these windows with complete impact windows is vital for up to code, and that can leave you spending an extra 50 to 70 grand on impact windows for the whole house.
The asking price, $490,000. Next, this 3-bedroom home in a popular neighborhood.
Come on in, guys, after you.
Oh, wow.
It needs a lot of work.
This is definitely rough compared to the last one. I mean, I really don't think that I could work with most of that kitchen, or at least it would be a really big project for me to undertake.
All of these floorboards aren't even put together, and then if you see in this closet as well, there's also a discoloration.
Lots of things can be fixed up inside of a house, but this one I noticed, there's a busy road right out over the backyard wall.
We know that you can't change the location of the house, so having a busy road right in your backyard over the wall is not something that a buyer may want.
Even so, the house is listed for $525,000. Finally, this 4-bedroom home.
Joe, first impression?
Yeah, so I love the terrazzo floors. That is something that I'm actually after. And the fact that there's a lot of light from the sunroom, I can see that being a perfect office for me.
But the floors may need to be refinished, and the backyard has seen better days.
I see here that it says I can't use the sink.
Yes, the agent did disclose to me that there is an active leak in the vanity.
The asking price, $469,000.
Welcome back to Moonlight Manor.
Michelle Bowers started renovating homes as a hobby during the pandemic and documents her projects on social media.
What should home buyers look for?
We always look for stains in the ceiling. If you can access the attic or any crawl space up above there, look to make sure there's nothing wet up there, signs of mold.
She says water damage is a big red flag. The roof needs repairs or replacing. That can be a $100,000 fix. She also says shop for salvaged or secondhand items. Try to reuse materials from the home itself. And when it comes to lumber,
You can look for local lumber yards, old sawmills, which is what we go to a lot. Lumber's cheaper. It's usually old growth lumber.
finally, expect the unexpected.
I would build in a 20%, 25% additional amount of money just for the things that pop up along the way.
Because they always do.
Yes, they always do.
Michelle also says know your limitations. If you can't do it yourself, find a licensed contractor and talk to their references. Also, try to go see their previous work in person if possible. And when you are getting those quotes, don't always choose the cheapest one. Look for the most reliable contractor you can find. Now to one of the most important places in your home, the kitchen. We all do our best to keep it clean, but there may be germs lurking in places you would not expect. Take a look.
This is the top dirtiest item in the kitchen, spices.
You would be surprised. In fact, the researchers at the USDA were shocked when they found this out. Here's what they did. They took 371 people and said, hey, could you make some turkey burgers with seasoning for us and a salad? And everybody thought they were trying out new recipes. No, what they were doing was observing how these people cook in the kitchen. And it ended up, when they tested the surfaces, more than half of the time, these spice jars had the most
Because
contamination.
what, you're touching
bacteria.
your stuff and then touching the spice jar. And
It's
sprinkling
literally
it.
a worst case scenario because you're handling the meat, you're forming the patties, and
Yes.
then you're like, oh, gotta add the onion powder, the salt, the pepper.
Yes.
And you don't think, let me go back and wipe those down. And sometimes people aren't washing their hands during meal prep between each thing.
Okay.
So in your cooking show, you would do the mise en place, right?
Cooking show.
You would
Yes.
actually put the
Well,
ingredients out in
Yes,
advance.
Hoda and I were just talking about, like, I like to put it out because otherwise I obsessively check the recipe 500 times, like, per minute. So I just try to put it all in the thing and then I don't have to check again how much I
It's
need.
a smart thing to do to
Okay.
avoid cross-contamination as well.
Okay.
And if you're worried about it, look, pathogens don't live very long on surfaces. Just give these a wash in
wipe
hot
down.
soapy water or wipe down.
Okay, speaking of soap and water, this I would imagine was one of the cleanest places, but actually the sink is one of the germiest?
Yes, so you look
Okay.
at the sink, the handle, and the soap dispenser.
Okay,
What do you
so-
think is the germiest, Hoda?
Probably the sink.
So according to this
Yeah.
study, it was the soap dispenser. And here's why. Your hands are gross. That's when you touch the soap and then you wash them. So that
So
makes
this,
sense,
the outside
right?
stays yucky.
Exactly. So if you're worried about that, look, just wash that
Wipe
when
that
you
down.
wash your hands every
Yeah.
once in a while. Yes, the faucet and the sink. They say to clean out your entire sink every night. If you're a big meal prepper, look, you're putting eggs in there, poultry, meats. You're going to want to wash
And what
that
do you
with hot
clean it
soapy
with?
water. You can also use a mix of bleach, 1 to 2 tablespoons
okay.
of bleach per gallon of water. That's another great disinfectant. And of course, the regular ones that are on the market.
Yeah, things you don't think you need to clean, but you
Right,
definitely
but you definitely do.
Okay.
The thing we use to clean sponges is pretty grim.
Okay, so we know
Pretty
about
grim.
sponges. Sponges, they're wet and they're cold and they're a place where bacteria love to live. So the USDA actually says you can microwave your sponge 1 to 2 minutes. That'll kill off most things. Some people recommend throwing it in the dishwasher. I would just say make sure your dishwasher has a really strong drying cycle because the key here is to keep everything dry.
Right.
When it comes to your dishcloths,
Yeah.
a good best practice, they say to swap them out every day. I feel like that's a lot of laundry. If that's not realistic for you, at least make sure you're hanging up your dishcloth in a place where it's going to be fully getting dry. Because again, you want to avoid moisture. The other thing that's nice is having a different, we do this in our house. We have hand cloths for drying our hands.
Right.
We have a different cloth that you use for drying the dishes. And then we have another cloth for cleaning the counters.
Yeah.
So that helps keep everything separate.
It's not a dish.
This is oh, go ahead.
No, how often should you replace those sponges? Because I feel like ours hang around forever and ever.
I know. So the rule of thumb is, look,
Yeah.
if it's getting dingy, like
Yeah.
it's falling apart, tattered, that's like it's far
Yeah.
too gone. If
Yeah.
it starts to smell bad,
Yeah.
but it really depends. Some people aren't really in their kitchen that much,
Yeah.
so one sponge could last them a month. For someone else, it's a week.
Okay.
Vic, let's talk about these cutting boards here. They're on the list as well. Why is that?
All right, so whether it's plastic or wood, Craig, when you are cutting in a cutting board, those grooves become a breeding ground for bacteria. They love to live
the
in the
grooves
little
on the
nooks and
side.
crannies. Yeah, and the grooves that are made by your knife. So the best practice here is actually double washing your cutting board, meaning you wash it with the soap and sponge, the hot water, then you throw it in the dishwasher.
Oh.
That's the recommendation. The number one thing to do as well, make sure they are dry before you put them away. You don't want to be putting away a damp cutting board, especially not a wooden one. And then finally, a different one for your meat, for your poultry, for your fruits and vegetables. That is the key to preventing
And
cross-contamination.
do the plastic cutting boards carry as many germs as the wooden?
They say in the cuts of the grooves, it really doesn't make a big difference.
Okay.
So, yeah, don't have a false sense of security with plastic.
Okay.
All right, Vic, in about 30 seconds here, give me,
Okay.
we got a produce drawer, we got
Yeah.
a meat drawer from the fridge.
You guys have a well-stocked fridge because I know Siri cooks.
Yeah.
A great thing to do is line the refrigerator doors with paper towels to catch all the juice and the drippings, and it's easy to take that out and throw it away. Real simple. Cleaning experts say clean out your entire fridge once every season, and you can seriously just wash these with soap and water or use a wipe across the inside or give them a good spray. Again, let them dry. Follow the directions to make sure that all the bacteria is dead.
Okay, and what are the shrimp and what are these doing?
Oh, okay. So you definitely want to put any of your raw meat right into the produce bag before you put it in.
Extra
That's
layer of
one-
protection when you put it in.
Exactly. So you don't
Okay.
get all the
Those have been
leakage
out a
and
while. I
clumping.
might not eat those.
Make sure to properly clean those areas and items to prevent cross-contamination and harmful bacteria. Up next, what you need to know before buying a car in 2023. And are you thinking about going electric? There are things to consider before making that switch. That's all ahead on Consumer Confidential. We'll be right back. We are back with Consumer Confidential. After 2 years of surging prices, car buyers are hoping to finally get back in the driver's seat this year. But while the market for used cars is softening, new vehicles are setting records with sky-high prices. Here's NBC's Sam Brock with more.
For drivers who've braved pandemic sticker shock, the road to buying a car hasn't just been bumpy. it's been a financial sinkhole.
We couldn't really find anything brand new, and in the used cars were the prices of what we thought the brand new cars were going to be priced for.
Brittany Alexander and Candon Rodriguez, just two of the car shoppers who bought or leased in the last year, though they were still stunned to learn the average price tag for a new vehicle. In December, a staggering $49,507.
When I told you $50,000, your reaction is what?
That's terrible. That is. No, because like a lot of people don't make that annually. So how can you afford to buy a car if you don't have that money?
In addition to soaring rents and inflated grocery bills, cars have also been pinching consumer wallets with some of the underlying issues like supply chain disruptions, lack of semiconductors, and labor shortages still a problem, but stabilizing.
I would say the situation has improved significantly on all three of those fronts, but there are still some constraints in the supply, so we're not completely out of the woods.
As vehicle supplies tick back up, you'll notice that there's a better selection of certain kinds of cars, the ones that turn a higher profit margin.
You're still seeing automakers putting constrained components in high-value cars. So the most profitable cars are the ones that they're willing to build. So pickups and SUVs are becoming more available.
This, in turn, has revved up the average cost of vehicles dramatically. But check out this split. While year-over-year inflation for new cars rose 6.2% in December, it plummeted 8.8% for used cars and trucks, a significant reversal. Carvana, the second largest used car retailer in the country, is expanding its signature car vending machines from 33 to 37 in the coming months, including the newest one in Denver. The company is optimistic about the new year and banking on a boost from tax season. Still, even with used car costs coming down, the industry-wide jolt has left many shoppers, like Miami lawyer Brooks LaRue, out of options.
I don't see how anyone could afford a car right now, new or used, without going into significant debt.
Thank you, Sam. Well, given the unpredictability of gas prices, there has been growing interest in electric vehicles, with a record number sold just last year. But will making the switch from gas to an electric-powered vehicle really save you money? Here's what you need to know before making the switch.
We aren't flying high Jetson style, but the future of cars and trucks is here, with many automakers electrifying their lineups.
The all-new, all-electric EQS SUV.
Some, like Cadillac, vowing to go all-electric by 2030 and Lexus by 2035, fueled in part by consumer demand to go green and ditch unpredictable fuel prices. A recent survey revealing more than a third of Americans would consider buying or leasing an EV when in the market for a new ride. But right now, it's tough finding cars, especially electric ones.
Why is it so hard to get your hands on an electric vehicle?
There's difficulty in the industry building vehicles in general, and EVs being the newest thing on the block with the latest technology are just more difficult to build, and ultimately the supply is just not there.
Alex Nizak is an automotive engineer at Consumer Reports. When it comes to price, you may experience a little sticker shock. On average, a new EV now costs around $64,000, nearly $16,000 more than the overall industry average. If you compare similar models, a new gas-powered Hyundai Kona costs around $22,000. The electric version, nearly $34,000. But shifting gears from gas to electric can help you save money down the road when it comes to gas and maintenance. A Consumer Reports study found a typical EV owner who mostly charges at home can save up to $1,000 a year on fueling costs, with gas now at more than $3 a gallon. And Nizak says EVs usually spend less time in the shop, saving owners about $4,600 in maintenance and repair fees over the car's lifetime when compared to gas-powered vehicles.
The reason for that is EVs tend to have less moving parts.
And Nizak says electric vehicles usually require fewer routine checkups. A quick look under the hood, you can see it's usually a storage space. There's no need to replace oil filters or parts like spark plugs.
What questions should you ask yourself before you buy an EV?
It depends on how you drive and where you drive. If you're taking a lot of road trips and you're going to have to rely on the public charging infrastructure, and you're going to be waiting longer and taking more stops to charge the vehicle.
When planning a long road trip, remember, most EVs have a driving range of a little more than 200 miles. And when using a public fast charger, it can take 25 to 60 minutes to juice up. While California and New York have the most charging stations by volume, Vermont has the most per capita. And by 2030, the federal government plans to build a national network of 500,000 EV chargers. Nizick says if you mostly take short trips, running errands or carpooling, look for charging options around town, at work,
and especially at home. You can get a basic charging outlet installed in your own garage. Just make sure you hire a licensed electrician. Costs vary, but start around $200.
Depending on where you live, electricity could cost more than gas, and cold weather or extreme heat can drastically reduce an EV's range. Nizick urges consumers to also consider reliability. As more EVs roll out, Nizick says if you can wait, avoid buying first-year models. Allow some time for manufacturers to work out the kinks. All tips to make your next ride a smooth one.
While EVs cost more on average, under the Inflation Reduction Act, you can receive a federal tax credit up to $7,500 when buying a new EV or $4,000 for a used one. Coming up, it's become a hot target for thieves. Catalytic converters. Learn how to make it harder for crooks to steal yours. Plus, a breakdown of some of the best money-saving hacks that are currently dominating social media. We're back right after this. Welcome back. It is a device found in almost every car, and it has become one of the hottest items for thieves. It's called the catalytic converter, and once it's gone, your car makes a ton of noise and really can't run. Replacing that catalytic converter can cost thousands, but there are some simple things you can do to prevent this kind of theft from happening to you.
Across the country, thieves caught on camera. Brazen thefts of catalytic converters in broad daylight. In November, a federal takedown of a criminal network dealing in stolen catalytic converters. 21 arrests across the U.S. and $545 million in assets seized, including homes, cash, and luxury vehicles. What makes converters so hot? They contain precious metals like rhodium, palladium, and platinum. Right now, rhodium alone valued at more than $12,000 per ounce, and it's consumers who pay the price.
It can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 to have a mechanic replace your catalytic converter. So what can you do to protect this very valuable part of your car? With me now is Sergeant Justin Mount of the Orlando Police Department. Thank you so much. So first, let me ask you, how easy is it for them to get under and steal one of these?
It's very simple, Vicki. Basically, all they do is they just make a couple cuts, remove the O2 sensor, and they're gone in 60 seconds or less.
Under a minute?
Under a minute.
What are some things consumers can do to protect their catalytic converters?
Well, here's an option for people. It's a shield, and essentially it just goes and bolts right up to basically block the catalytic converter, and you can have your mechanic install it. There's smaller ones that they make, you know, cages that just protect around the catalytic converter, and it's not necessarily going to stop them from stealing it. It just might make it harder and be more of that deterrent that makes them move on to the next vehicle.
Shields can cost anywhere from $200 to $600. Sergeant Mount also recommends having a mechanic engrave the VIN or vehicle identification number on the catalytic converter and coat it with a bright, high-temperature paint. One can cost less than $15. Some police departments also offer kits like this to etch a unique code registered to your car's VIN. Police in Orlando investigating a growing number of cases, more than 300 in 2022. That's up 618% from 2 years ago. Nationally, cases up 1,215%.
They come in from out of town. They'll come in for a weekend, they'll hit us hard, and they're gone.
Sergeant Mount says when parking at a hotel or mall, choose interior spots to make it harder for thieves to get under your car. And pay attention if you see anyone walking around with a cordless saw.
Right then and there, that should tell you, like, something is not right. And go ahead, call 911. Get a good description, whether it's the vehicle or a tag.
And when you're home,
the idea is to park in your garage if you can. But what if you've got to park in a driveway or on the street? What should you be thinking about?
Lighting is huge. Better lit the driveway is, the better you're going to be as far as deterring criminals. Spotlights are also very good.
What about security cameras?
They're relatively inexpensive now. The ones that they have are battery operated, and they have good quality video. So they're very helpful when it comes to evidence that we can use to solve these crimes.
When you have all this stuff installed, is that also potentially a deterrent to the thieves?
Yes, these guys are going to see that and they'll move on to the next.
These crimes can be hard to solve. Sergeant Mount says spread the word by sharing pictures, security camera video, and details about any thefts with your neighborhood group or websites like Nextdoor.
People can help you gather the clues by getting descriptions.
license plates.
That's where it starts. If we have that as a lead, man, that goes a long way.
If your converter is stolen, you should call your insurance company to see if they will cover the replacement. Not everyone has the proper coverage, though, so it is a good idea to double check right now what kind of insurance coverage you have before something like this happens to you. Up next, the money-saving tips dominating social media right now. Social media is filled with videos of people coming up with creative ways to spend less and save more. NBC's business reporter Brian Chung recently spoke to our friends on the third hour of Today and broke down some of the most popular hacks.
First of all, why are social media users especially so interested in these finance hacks?
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, look, inflation is high. People are concerned about what the economic outlook is going to look like this year. So people are saying, I got to try and be more mindful about my saving and also my spending. But then also, interest rates are going to go up. Okay. The expectation is tomorrow the Federal Reserve will continue to raise interest rates. That means your credit card rates are going to remain high. Your mortgage rates are going to remain high. So all of these things are making people more mindful. They're taking to TikTok. They're taking to Instagram. Yeah. It's popping off with a lot of these types of trends.
So how are they trying to gamify spending specifically?
Yeah, well, gamifying, trying to make it more engaging. And one thing that you can kind of take a look at as an example is the no spend challenge. Essentially what you do is you print out a calendar and then you look at your spending. So the days where you don't spend on things that you don't need, that extra sweatshirt that you just didn't need to have, you're going to color that in green. But the days that you do spend on things that you don't need, you're going to highlight that in red. That's totally okay. Right. But the idea is just to highlight your wins, make sure that you're building good habits and aware of the days when you're spending on things that you don't need. And by the way, if you put gas into your car to get to work, that doesn't count. That's something that you need.
What about these apps? You say you use apps to help?
Yeah, there are apps like You Need a Budget and Mint if you don't want to print out an actual calendar. A lot of people don't have printers, so you can use digital versions as well.
That's a great idea. I do think it's fun to make it fun.
Yeah, it's a competition in a way.
It is, of course. And I love this whole envelope idea as a way to save money.
Yeah, so this is really great. It's called the Envelope Savings Challenge, and I think we've got the props actually right here. So essentially what you do is you're going to take 100 envelopes, and you're going to number them 1 to 100, and then you're going to just draw one every single day, right, at random. So let's say, for example, I pulled up a 69 out here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take some hard cash, which I happen to have in my pocket right here,
Very nice.
and then you're going to basically say, all right, I'm going to put $69 into this envelope, and then you put it away. And essentially what you're doing is that you're accumulating that savings over time, and 100 envelopes, it's going to get you $5,050
in 100 days.
In 100 days.
$5,000.
It's a substantial amount of money.
Just by pulling in.
Yep, exactly.
And by the way, some days are easy.
You can scale this down too. So if you only can do, let's say, for example, 50 days, well, then that'll accumulate about $1,275. If I did the math right, 25 would be $325.
Oh, now you're just showing off.
I'm just, look, I'm the data reporter after all.
Oh, look at me. I can crunch numbers.
Hey, I'm killing it, you know?
All right.
No, this is a really great idea.
So, Brian, how do you combine all these ideas to actually, put this together and make this part of your life?
Yeah, well, it's important to remember that savings is one part of it, and then spending is the other part of it, right? So if you've got a few spare envelopes like I have right here, you can do a zero budgeting challenge. You could basically put a category like, moving over this way. You can do, for example, groceries for $200, right? You can also say, well, for the internet bill, I'm going to put $80 in, right? You're going to break the cash into these categories, or, for example, glasses for Chanel, right? You can say, all right, I'm going to save up with these envelopes, but once you put the money in there, and then once it's gone, it's gone. And the idea here is to curb overspending. So for your boy, for example, right, sneakers.
Right.
$200, right? I buy too much when it comes to sneakers, right? Once I've spent through this, that's it for the month. It's a way to police and make sure that you're just kind of mindful of how much that is.
How much do those cost?
These are about $200.
Okay, there you go. All right.
So I burned through the month. I'm done.
Yeah. All right, why don't you go over to Mr. Magoo here?
So we have Magoo. We have about 1 minute left. This is big. All over TikTok now, people are talking about side hustles. I saw one yesterday, and I'm like, maybe I should sell T-shirts. Because they make it seem like it's so simple.
Hey, extra money is money, right? I mean, I think what was Drake said that as long as the outcome is income. So I think
you just quote Drake?
I did just quote Drake.
Impressive.
But look, all this is about high inflation right now. People are looking for ways to get extra money. We've seen a lot of trends on TikTok. I've seen people set up vending machines. I saw someone set up an inflatable nightclub in their backyard. They charge entry to get inside the nightclub.
People would do it.
People would do it, but the important thing here, that's the nightclub right there.
Oh
Look how impressive that is, but that is expensive. I looked it up, folks, right?
Yeah.
Don't invest more than you can lose in these side hustles.
That is important. Yes.
Why would you take on more debt if you're trying to pay off debt?
And
also
finally,
set boundaries, even if the money works out. Time is money. It takes time to set up these side hustles.
Thanks, Brian. And that is our time for now. Be sure to join me for another edition of Consumer Confidential right here on Today All Day. For all of us at NBC News, I'm Vicki Nguyen.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.